Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm playing the top 10 worst games to play on BoardGameArena. Now, I should be very clear about what that title means. It doesn't mean the literal worst games to play on BoardGameArena. That would be just picking bad games. Rather, these are picking good games, or at least generally well-received games, and then talking about the worst implementations, meaning effectively games that I think are much better to play in person than playing them on BoardGameArena. I think the BoardGameArena does not translate as well. That's effectively what the point of this video is. Now, I did a video a while ago together with Meg on the channel of the top 10 best games to play on BoardGameArena. At the time, I said that I would do a top 10 worst, although that was, I think, a year and a half ago by now, so time has gone on, but here we are, finally doing that video. I'll also say, inherently, and this is true with any video I do on the channel that has any ounce of opinion, inherently these are subjective opinions. I say that in particular this time because one of my games in particular, I know I've seen people saying it's one of their favorite versions to play on BoardGameArena, although I've also seen others who share my opinion that it's not a good translation for a variety of reasons. But either way, we'll get up to those as we go through it. Let's go ahead and start this off, and I will say this list is ranked in order of what I think is the least to most, offensive might be the wrong word, but the least to most as far as how bad of an implementation it is, versus, again, if you go to the end of this list, is the worst games to play online, and the beginning has more nuance to it. In fact, specifically, our number 10 is actually a very specific one, because number 10 is Earth. Earth is a very well-received game. A very well-received game that's been played a lot on BoardGameArena as well, by the way. This game has been played 200,000 times on BoardGameArena. I love this little stat tracking, by the way. There's like lucky number or something like that, whatever it is. This is a game that's been played like 7 million times because it's so quick and easy to play. Either way, Earth has 200,000 plays under its belt, which, by the way, what would be interesting and what I might do, go ahead and check out the pinned comment on this video, because I think what I'll do after this video is I'll pin a comment comparing the ratio of these games, how many plays they have. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. Okay. It's going to be a fun little video, fun little top pinned comment, where I'm going to pin the ratio of these games on their physical plays logged on BoardGameGeek versus their BoardGameArena plays. I'll probably do it. I might make it a full separate video. I'll figure it out. There might be a pinned comment, might not be. I'm having an idea. Anyways, we're going to move past it. Earth over here. Earth is a very well-received game, and this one in general, I think it's a very good game, and I think playing on BoardGameArena is fine if you play it in real time. This is one of the worst games to play with anyone that is slow or asynchronous, in my opinion, because of how much the simultaneous turns slow things down in this game. In Earth, what you're going to be doing is every time you take an action, other players get to benefit and take actions as well, which means if you're playing a 4-player game of Earth on BGA, every single action requires multiple people to go ahead and cycle their turns, which doesn't work at all with it. For sure, asynchronous does not work, in my opinion. And then, even with slow players, it just takes you out of the experience. The entire thing gets slowed down in a way that I just find less satisfying than playing this game in person. So overall, Earth, solid game, but one that, for me at least, I am less in a rush to play it on BoardGameArena. My number 9 is going to be Ark Nova over here. These are all loading slowly, apparently. Oh my gosh, we're going to have to, what's going on here? Ark Nova, here's my number 9. I'm going to just click on a few tabs over here to quickly get them to load. We'll go back to Ark Nova. Ark Nova is my number 9. Ark Nova is one that I think that, and this is the one specifically where I mentioned, a lot of people do think this is a very good implementation, and there's good reasons for that. Ark Nova, I recently reviewed on the channel. I think it's a good game, but I don't think it's a great game, and I know it's very well received. It's number 4 game of all time. We currently have logged 3 million plays of Ark Nova. Wow, that's a lot of plays of Ark Nova. 3 million plays. Oh my gosh, I should do a whole different video on plays versus whatever. Anyways, Ark Nova, 3 million plays logged on BoardGameArena, and this one is, again, a lot of people have said this is a very good implementation because it manages a lot of the tracking for you, it handles a lot of things for you, the setup is a lot easier, all those things are great, and I don't disagree with that at all. And also, like I remember in my review, I complained briefly about the iconography. You can also just hover over any card in BoardGameArena, and it'll tell you exactly what the card does, making that process even easier. My issue with it is I find the amount of information that they obfuscate in an effort to make it presentable just means that a lot of information I find less intuitive or less easy to follow compared to playing it in person. It is not the worst. It's why it's my number 9. Earth got my number 10 slot because, again, if you're playing it real time with fast players, I think it's great, but anything else is not. And Ark Nova is still a good game to play on BoardGameArena, but I find that I personally find that I'd much rather play this one in person. I get much more of the experience. I have a better handle of what's happening, and there's not additional perks to playing it online. So, for example, one of the games that I don't remember if I put it in my top 10 best games to play on BoardGameArena or not, but Feast for Odin has a lot of perks as far as playing it in person and playing it online, but sometimes you have things like in playing it in person has the expansion, playing it online has token management and tracking, so there's perks in both places. In the case of Ark Nova, I understand why someone would want to play it online, but for me, I get much more out of the experience in terms of the ease of information accessibility by playing it in person, even though there is a bit more tracking and management going on. My number 8 is, these are all going to go slow over here, number 8 is going to be innovation. And innovation, again, is higher on this list because it's a pro and con situation. I do find that innovation really manages to track your icons in a way that doesn't constantly require tracking those icons every single time you play it. Innovation is a game where when you play the game, you're going to be putting cards in front of you, and you're going to be tracking various icons because you have these, you have to, basically, if you're going to enforce a dogma against another player, you have to have more icons than the other player. And very often, these will reference how many icons you have. And being able to track all those, having the game track it for you, is great, and it's one of the reasons why playing it online might be better. But I do find that playing it online means that unless you're actively tracking every single play as it happens, it is so easy to lose track of the cards that are being played, what other players added to the board. It has the information tracking, the iconography tracking. Again, this is a mixed bag. I do enjoy playing online. I'd much rather play this in person, though. I find that the ability to follow what's going on is so much easier in person, and this one has how many log plays? Do they all say offhand? Where is the log plays in this one? This has 1.5 million log plays of innovation, which means it's interesting because Earth is so popular. Granted, Earth is new on BGA, but Earth is so popular that I do wonder if others agree with me because of that aspect, versus Ark Nova, clearly not agreed. Anyways, moving on over here, we have Ancient Knowledge. Ancient Knowledge is, again, another mixed bag situation. Ancient Knowledge is a great game. Highly recommend it. It's a game about trying to manage your relics. You're going to be having various cards going to your board, slowly adding their influence as they slowly move off into the distance. You have these 5 permanent cards that are going into play, and you're trying to get as many points as possible while managing this constantly moving and shifting row of cards. Very satisfying experience, lots of fun, and I find that playing it online, they did such a good job at making sure that every action is played properly that it becomes a grind to play. This is one where every single action I've played in this game, and I played this one online, and every single action I take is triple checked to the point that it's just obnoxious how much work is going into triple checking that every single thing should be played perfectly over here. So overall, Ancient Knowledge, they did a good job managing something that requires a lot, and we have 16,000 plays, so definitely not the most popular. But over here, every single action is triple checked and looked after to the point that I find the experience becomes worse playing it online because of how much goes into that. And I do think the tracking of other players as well is harder online. One thing that's generally an issue online and online games is tracking other players' boards and having that ability. You often have the ability to be able to navigate on BoardGameArena to other players' boards, but you often don't, or at least I often don't. I kind of loosely check what's going on in terms of what's needed, but I don't have as much awareness as I would like to have, especially on off turns or whatnot, compared to playing it in person. So Ancient Knowledge, too much tracking, a great game, not the best BoardGameArena implementation. Then we have over here Akropolis. And Akropolis is, again, another one that I could see being divisive. If I had to guess, I'd say this is over 1 million plays. Nope, not even close. 295,000 plays on this one. But Akropolis is one that is easy to play on BoardGameArena. Very easy to dive into. But again, I do find that the presence, the board presence, I find is a little bit obfuscated compared to playing this one in person. Playing it online, rotating tiles, trying to get a sense of where everything is and how things are going to score, I just find the in-person presence for Akropolis is much easier to tackle and to handle. This is a game where you're basically taking tiles, you're placing them down onto a board, and then the way you place tiles is going to determine how they score points, every color having a different way that it scores, and you're slowly going to be going up. So it's not just a flat domain, you're going up as you go. And Akropolis does a good job of giving you the tools you need to rotate the board, to rotate the tiles, but I do find that the general board awareness is much worse in an online game compared to playing this in person, which is why it's on this list. Coming up after that, we have to tap these again to make sure they all load quickly over here. Coming up next, we have Paint the Roses. Paint the Roses is a deduction game. This is a deduction game where you're basically going to be placing tiles into a garden, and the way you place tiles into the garden, you're trying to give other players the information they need, because it's cooperative, in order to be able to guess what card you have in your hand as far as what goes next to each other on those tiles. And I do find that overall Paint the Roses is a very solid deductive experience, but playing it online loses the table presence of interacting with the other players. I find it really takes the game and compresses it into really just tracking the information, and I don't even think the information tracking, the way they track it online, I don't find is intuitive or easy to process. And so overall, Paint the Roses, I find, is a very good experience to play in person, where you're reading off each other's body language, you're trying to play things, you're hedging your guesses, and playing online removes a lot of the magic from the game experience. It just really takes away from, well, how much fun the game is. And this one over here has 51,000 plays, so popular-ish, but not popular enough. Moving on, coming in at number 4, And number 4, we have D.E.I, Divide et Impera, and I love this game. I love this game so much, one of my favorite games, but it is one that I find playing online, I can't track what's happening. This game has multiple levels to it, and the top-down view on BGA is very flat, very one-dimensional, and I have found that playing this in person is such a tense experience as far as managing your troops, managing your forces, trying to move around the board, and trying to, manage the multiple levels of elevation, versus playing it online. I've just found my board awareness is so much lost. I've played with other people from my game group who play it in person and play it online, and we all just don't get that same sense. We all love it in person, and online I've tried it a few times, and each time continues to give me a not as good experience. For me, this is a 5 out of 5 game. It's one of my favorite area control games. There's so much going on in this game that I really enjoy, and online I found that I just didn't get the magic, unfortunately. This one has 1,700 plays online. It's not the most popular game in general, honestly. D.E.I in general is not the most popular game. For me, it's very much goes into that hidden gem category. It's a game I will swear by and I have so much fun with, but it's not necessarily a game that has worked for everyone. That's going to be D.E.I. Again, I love it, but the online play is not going to be the thing that gives you that magic, at least not in my opinion. In a similar note, we have Blood Rage. Blood Rage is another one that I find, I love this game. Another 5 out of 5, another area control game. A game that I imagine has more plays. This one's got to be popular-ish. 65,000 plays. It's interesting the kinds of games that work on BGA or not. That is a whole different conversation for another day. But again, in Blood Rage, I find the trackability is just not there. The board looks obfuscated. The ability to see what's going on and track what's going on means that I love playing Blood Rage in person. I will always be here for it. I played it on TTS and I liked it. I haven't played the Steam version, although I do own it, although I've heard mixed things in the Steam version. So I think Blood Rage, to me, as much as I'll play it in person, I like it. As much as I'll play it on TTS, I like it. For me, the BGA implementation did not work well for me. I found this game gave me a subpar experience that simply wasn't rewarding. That's so straight up. It wasn't a rewarding experience. The ability to track what's happening, to follow other players, and to see as other players play cards, as move units around, it just doesn't have that same level of presence that the physical game will have. And so for me, as much as I love Blood Rage, if your only engagement with this game is playing it on BGA, I don't think you had an ideal Blood Rage experience. Moving on to number 2, we have Canvas. Canvas is such a good game. I love Canvas, and if I had to guess, I'd say this has got to be over 300,000 plays. Gotta be. Nope, 50,000 plays. I'm so off. I have no context as to what's played on VGA, although maybe it's just that other people agree. I don't know. See, Canvas, I think, is incredibly fun. But when you try to play Canvas, in general, what you're doing in Canvas, you're drafting cards, and you're going to be laying together 3 cards that have degrees of acrylic film you can see between them, and you're going to be getting the symbols of these various cards. So you're both building a portrait, which is fun, but you're also trying to optimize your score based on the symbols that are on those cards. So you're doing both. You're having fun just building portraits, and you're trying to win the game. When you play it online, the way you manage the overlaying of those icons, of the cards, I find it such a tedious, hard to follow experience that I don't get any of the sense of combining that I have when I play this game in real life. When I play this game in real life, when I sit down, when I table it, when we combine cards together, and we do this, and we do that, and we put this next to this, it's such a process to try to figure out what works well together. And for me, online is tedious. It doesn't have the same charm. It doesn't have the same magic. It removes all the best parts of the game, and it just feels like you're trying to make things work, but in a way that's less visually satisfying, less tactfully satisfying. Tactile. When you have tactile, the feelingness. It removes some of that feeling, and it removes the general idea of perception of what's going on. To me, I think Canvas just doesn't deliver on the magic that Canvas should bring to your table. And then lastly, the number 1, and there are a few games in BGA that fall into this category. I just haven't played them all. I'm only going with ones I played, which is going to be Skull. Skull is great. Skull is such a good game. But half the game of Skull is reading other players at the table. Half the game. Skull is basically a game where you have a bunch of coasters, and you play a coaster, and then eventually you're either playing a coaster or you start a bid. When you start a bid, you're basically bidding on how many of your coasters you can turn over before you reveal skulls, which means you're betting based on what the other players have done, as well as what you think you've done. Not what you think you've done, what you've tried doing, whether you're bluffing other players. It's a game all about the players at the table, and I have no clue. I'm not even going to try to guess. Let's guess 170,000. 170,000 plays. We have 470,000 plays. 470,000 plays of Skull. To me, playing Skull on BGA removes all of the magic of the experience. The magic of the experience is playing with other players. Unless you're playing this online with a Zoom session or something like that, which maybe players are doing, I don't know. To me, just trying to guess the game based on the skulls on the table, based on the cards on the table, based on the coasters, is not the game. It's based off of the people at the table. It's based off of how they played, what they did, how shifty they look when they play something, whether they're your friends and you know them and you know exactly how they do things. To me, the entire magic of Skull is the ability to connect the players to the coasters, and I find that I get none of that experience from playing this game on BGA. As much as I love Skull, as much as I recommend Skull, the BGA implementation, unfortunately, doesn't work for me. And that's what we have over here. 10 different games that I think that are mostly great games. Some of them are higher than me than others, but they're mostly solid games. But ultimately, for me, these are all games where I'd much rather play these games in person than playing them online, usually because of some sense of disconnect, either from the players or from the components, the sense of what's going on, or sometimes a combination of all three. Let me know down below which games you find haven't worked for you. Which games do you love the game, but you don't love playing it on BGA, assuming you like playing games on BGA in general. If you don't like playing games online in general, whole different conversation. But let me know which ones haven't worked for you and why. I'd love to know. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And as always, I hope you have a good one.